So, number 1 or 2 or something like that had to go. And he moved forward to this planet, landed 1 unit on it, faced 2 enemy ground forces, so you can't bombard against them. Now, this is a counter that stays after it's been revealed. He was defeated, the Lizic player was defeated, and now there's still a defensive force there. He, of course, spent a command counter to move there. Next player up is number 3 over here, and he has chosen to play his political action. Now, I'm not flipping it over completely. It did a number of things. One is it gave him 3 action cards, which he placed over here in his hand, and nothing he really wanted to play. You can only hold a total of 7 of these, I guess. And now he also got a command counter, which he put in his strategy allocation because he doesn't believe he's going to be moving ships anymore. And finally, he got to pull an event card that'll go up to, or a political card that'll go up for a vote. He also got to pick from the top 3 which one will be the next voted on and put the other 2 at the bottom. Ordering on that actually depends on this, but this one was voted for. And what it is colonial redistribution. The player with the most victory points choose randomly if there's a tie. Well, that is random right now. Must choose one of his planets and destroy all ground forces on that planet. A number of players, or all the players, counted up their votes and voted. If they had no ground forces on some planet, they voted in favor, and the motion passed. So now, I will randomly determine someone, and I'll start from the speaker and go counterclockwise. Yeah, that won't work. I should have a 6-sided die kicking around here. I don't seem to have one available without digging. And unfortunately, I'm doing a terrible job of rolling a 6 or less. Okay, 6. So, this Cha got affected by this, and they'll pick some planet of theirs. And theoretically, this should have a marker on it. It's their home planet, so I'm not really worrying about it too much. So, they just had that planet denuded of troops. However, they now choose a player with the fewest victory points. They'll choose themselves. And they get 3 free ground forces on that planet. It's their own planet. Well, that's good, because otherwise they would have lost someone else. They would have lost one of their home planets to someone else. Good thing it worked out that way. Otherwise I would have embarrassed myself by saying, shit, I should have read the card. Maybe no one wanted to risk this. But since everybody has the same number of victory points, that was pretty much a guaranteed solution. Anyone could have gained from this. The people with no troops on their on some planet, though, had the most to gain. So there we have that, and now each player has the option to spend a command counter in exchange for an action card. Personally, I think action cards don't sound that enticing at this moment. So I'm going to look to see if there's a number 4, and there is. He'll be going next, and we'll go from him. Okay, so other actions we had. The Letnev played the logistics action. That gave them 4 strategy marks. You can see they have quite a pile here. It allowed other people to expend influence for command counters, but nobody took that. Then we came to the trade action, and he actually exercised that. And here's what happened. First of all, this gives him the right to cut deals, and he wanted one with Hacken, and Hacken said sure, because they each had 3-point trade cards for sale. But then Hacken said, I want to deal with the, sorry, wrong guy. Oh, I'm sorry. He went for the 2-point trade agreement. But he wanted to deal with the universities over here, who each had 3.1s, and they didn't want to pay the Zacha, but Hacken can cut deals without that. So they got a good cut there. The Zacha then made a deal with someone here, the furthest away, the Barony of Letnev, figuring that's going to be the person least likely to affect them, and they can probably keep that trade agreement for the longest period of time. The Emirate one, if they get into a war, that could be a problem. They'd lose their trade agreement. Now, then came the, does anyone else want any? And the answer was yes, everyone else wants trade agreements. But the Shah made the deal, okay, each person pays me $1 for one trade agreements. And we saw those come out where the Mentak, the universities, and the barony all got their full trade agreements, and now the Lizics, because they had no cash, are left with no trading partners. That puts them in kind of an ugly position as far as I'm concerned. In terms of direct cash for the action, this Cha got themselves 3 trade goods just from playing the action. There was no bonus, though, for Hacken other than forming them. And I don't think anybody has any advantages that help them with trade. I'm not sure. It's just too hard to keep track of all the different elements in this game at this point to be sure of that. And I'd probably have trouble with that no matter what, playing it solitaire. I know I have trouble with things like Age of Renaissance for that reason. Okay, so that's the end of 5. Now I gotta hunt down other numbers. Ooh, do we have a 6? No, that's over here. So then we go to 7. He's already taken his action. He'll be taking some sort of expand action at this point. Okay, now finishing up this round, the Hacken, they've already played their event before, so they did their spread into this system. And I haven't given them the planets yet. I have to remember to do that. They got lucky on their draws. One was a couple of trade goods, but one was a tech advance granted by the player to their left, who picked anti-mass deflectors, which allow you to go through the asteroid fields. Not a big deal, but it's another step forward in the tech tree, so that's useful there. Then we go over to the 8th player, who exercised the Imperial power, pulled up the first of our public objectives. And this one says, I have controlled Mercantile Rex the entire strategy and action phase of the round. It's worth a victory point if you do that. So if you can capture Mercantile Rex and hold it pretty much for a whole turn, you get, one time only in the game, a victory point, and it would be flagged by your side. But the university's got 2 points for this, and now I'm already beginning to doubt how valuable picking that 8 tile on the first turn of the game is. Because here's the thing, the secondary ability for that, and this makes less sense later in the game, but the secondary ability is for a command counter, you're allowed to build units in one of your systems containing space docks. And it doesn't cost an activation for the system. Now, I think just about everybody's going to do that, because at this point in the game, a few extra troops means maybe another set of planets or another system to fall to you. Oh, a couple of things with the Hacken. They still have enough left to go over and capture Ludor. And, oh, that was another thing. This looks rather like Lai Mantak's Stellar Cruiser. Just for those of you who get that reference. And it is a cruiser. So I think everybody else is going to get kind of a bonus on that initial 2-point bonus that the universities get. They only got one expansion region, and now they're not going to get the production that anyone else gets. Anyway, I'll spend those chits for everyone, and then I'll come back and do the next round. So as I'm playing actually the first person to get this, the person with the initiative strategy. Now he gets the bonus of not having to even spend a strategy chit for it. But I'm beginning to realize maybe it's less of a value than I thought. So here's the reason. Sure, you don't activate the system to produce, but you still have to spend your cards. Now, what this means, well, if you activate a system to build in it, you can't fly the ships out immediately. So he's going to have the ability to move his ships out. Not a terrible advantage because he's already got most of the surrounding territories. Of course, this one is still a problem, and he may need to do something to remove the hostile population there that he wouldn't otherwise do. There's a strafing option, but that has a possible cost. Now, he's not really in range of anything else. He couldn't move these ships because they're in an activated region. So maybe there's less value to some people than to others. So for example, here where Letnev is, whatever they build, they could go to another planet by activating after that build. Whereas some of the others, I think everyone else, except for Blue, who expanded into 2 regions already, is going to get an extra planet possibly out of this. Alright, well, going around again, the first player was the Lizics, and they passed. Now, I'm trying to mark that by moving their initiative counter off the board. I had to kind of remember with them. So in their particular case, I could use the inactive one if need be. But since everybody's already used their strategy ability, it didn't make a difference, and they might as well hand it off. What they should have, what they should have is the speaker token, though, to remind me that they get the next pick. And at the very least, that reminds me that they have the number 1 option. I just forgot to move it. Okay, so they went first. Now they've passed. We're going to be on 3. The Mentax went second, advanced into here, found a biohazard that killed their guy. Then we go to 4, which was the Letnev, who expanded into here. Now, what did they get? They found an industrial, one of the little counters here. And what that gave them was a free spaceport, not exactly where they want it, and it gave them the planet untapped, as it were. Then we go over to 5, who expanded, I believe, into here. And they got 1 for free, but they found a biohazard which killed their people. A biohazard means you have to land at least 2 troops to take a planet, and the first one dies. Dangerous little effect there. And the counter remains until you actually conquer the planet. 6 doesn't exist, so then over to 7, which was the Hakan, and they got a cool effect too. They sailed over here to Lodor, and they found a flag there, a colony. Now that colony turned out to be theirs, which meant they got 2 extra ground units, and they pulled their units back up into space automatically. So they own that planet. That's cool, but it's only a 50-50 chance. Otherwise, it would have been some other random player who would have just had a planet over there, which could cause some really cool and interesting effects. I don't think anybody's got any more actions, but I'll run around once more to check to make sure that everyone passes, and then if and when they do, we'll go to the status phase. Well, they will. We'll end up in the status phase and take care of the actions there, which I'm going to follow kind of in detail because there are a number of different actions that can happen there. Okay, so player 5 triggered another system and built themselves a dreadnought and a couple ground troops with some of the trade goods that they've collected. Now they had a huge pile and now they only have 1 left, but that's okay. They wanted more naval power, and getting an extra dreadnought was worthwhile for them. Now they're going to pass. And now let me arrange my things so that they go where they want. Now we hit the status phase. Now for this, I need to page through the rules to find, it's actually listed on each of the player aids, but I need to be able to see the rules a little bit better. So the first thing is, this is where you would buy or announce that you have your objectives. You might flip over a secret objective card and indicate it that way, or you might put your flag over on the public ones. The public one isn't available to anyone. Nobody's even at Mercatol, so that's not an issue. Repair damaged ships. If a dreadnought or a War Sun is damaged, it'll be laying on its side at this point. This is when they get repaired, not right after the combat. They get repaired at the end of this, or during the status phase. Remove command counters. We remove all the pieces from the board. Okay, all these markers that people have positioned. I can do the rest of them in a moment. Hopefully that won't be a big deal. Refresh planet cards. Everybody's planets get turned face up to indicate that they're available for use again. Now I've got kind of a crowding situation here where I'm going to have to deal with that. Okay, the next thing is everybody gets an action card and 2 command counters, and they get to reposition their command counters at this point, and then they return their strategy cards. So this is where you kind of replenish and set up for your next turn, and I'll come back after everybody has, well, what the heck. I'm going to load this one up after having explained what we're going to do, and I'll come back at the beginning of next turn once people select their actions and maybe discuss what they did with their command pool, well, their command chits, because they may want to apportion them, well, they definitely do want to apportion them, but they may want to take into consideration what they're planning on doing for the turn in order to apportion them at this point. What the likely pick they're going to have. They don't know for sure. Only the speaker knows for sure what he can take. Everyone else might have thoughts. So Letnev may say, you know, speaker's going to take 8, so I'm going to take 1, just like we had last turn. But what if speaker takes 1 again? Well, that might be foolish, but you might do that. All right, this one's going up. I'll do that bookkeeping action, and then I'll start on turn 2.